Also, this is Tone, and you can see the marker there with your name on it. We appreciate you coming to Lyons, Georgia. I mean, we're just a little pinhead on a community, but we are trying to live that vision that you're talking about.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the chance to be a part of what y'all are doing down here. I think it's fantastic what Lyons is doing to have this big weekend that celebrates the heritage of the South and of Lyons with great music and this amazing cook-off with barbecue. And it's just a great community, and I think very forward-thinking to be doing things that help carry on the traditions that we have here in Georgia.
I guess you like the fact that music is stressed.
I love the fact that music is stressed, and not only that, but to be a songwriter and to be honored as part of this event is very special because I think songs are sort of the basis of all the music, and it's what I love to do, it's what I'm passionate about, so I'm really just so happy to be here.
Is it hard to write a good song?
The short answer is yes. I think it does take skill. I also think it takes inspiration and learning how to prepare yourself to be in tune with the world around you and notice when there's a good song there to be written. Sometimes I think the songs are there. If we just pay attention, we write what's there. And maybe we craft it a little bit, sort of what comes in that we are inspired by. But I think being in the right place at the right time, or just noticing that you always are in the right place at the right time. There's always something to write about. And then learning how to do that with the skills that go into songwriting, the craft of songwriting is the second part. And there's a little bit of magic. So I don't know that any of us can sit down and say, okay, I'm going to sit here and write a great song. There's always that little bit of magic, and I think that's what keeps us going.
What's it like to hear Alison Krauss or John Denver or somebody that esteemed sing your song?
Steel rails, chasing sunshine round the bend, winding through the trees like a ribbon in the wind. I don't mind not knowing what lies down the track, 'cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back.
It's not the first time I found myself alone at dawn. If I really had you once, then I'd still have you when I'm gone. Whistle blowing lonesome in my mind, calling me along that never-ending double line.
You know, it's to hear Alison Krauss do Steel Rails, or John Denver do Steel Rails, or many of the other wonderful artists who have recorded my songs is it's an experience that's hard to describe, because as a songwriter there's a thrill to writing the song, but there's also a thrill to seeing your song move beyond yourself and go out in the world where perhaps it could touch others or stir a feeling in someone else. And people like Alison Krauss and John Denver have enormous ability to do that. And also their amazing singing skills. So what it's like, it's puzzling. I wonder, how did this actually happen to me? And it's humbling to see something you wrote in the hands of such a master. It's thrilling, and I think it's what we live for. But I tell you, I also live to hear a 12-year-old in the halls at a convention singing something I wrote. That's equally thrilling in a different way. Or to see a YouTube video like I did yesterday of a new band with a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old in it singing Steel Rails, two little girls. That's equally thrilling in a different way.
sunshine around the bend, winding through the trees like a ribbon in the wind. And I don't mind not knowing what lies down the track, 'cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back. It's not the first time I found myself alone at dawn. If I really had you once, then I'd have you when I'm gone. And whistle blowing, blowing lonesome in my mind, calling me along that never-ending metal line. Steel rails, chasing sunshine around the bend, winding through the trees like a ribbon in the wind. And I don't mind not knowing what lies down the track, 'cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back. Boxcar door, lying in my mind with the things I've known before. And I've lost count of the hours, links and times. The rhythm of the rails keeps the motion in my mind. Steel rails, chasing sunshine around the bend, winding through the trees like a ribbon in the wind. I don't mind not knowing what lies down the track, 'cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back. Trees like a ribbon in the wind. And I don't mind not knowing what lies down the track, 'cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back. 'Cause I'm looking out ahead to keep my mind from turning back.
Thank you, Monica. Steel rails took about half an hour. I tend to wait a good bit of time until a song strikes me and then write fairly quickly. But then I like to take some time and let the song, you might say, simmer on the back burner, and see what editing I need to do to make it the very best song it can be. So there was a little editing time, but I was quite young at the time. I think I was in my early 20s when I wrote Steel Rails, and maybe 21. And so I didn't know as much about editing and crafting as I do now. And apparently all that knowledge hasn't necessarily helped, because the songs seem to have a life of its own.
This could be my last letter. I may never see the cotton fields of home again. I miss you, dear sister. Tonight I never felt so alone. And the fog was so thick that the stones, river stars, could scarcely invade the dread and the dark. And all that I could see when I closed my eyes to dream was home, sweet home.
The way I look at it is a song has a phrase, a set of words, and then it has some space, and then it has another set of words. And if you have a good phrase, if your line, your lyric is something important or powerful or emotional, that space gives the listener time to take that song home to their own thoughts or their own heart. And if you don't have that space, you're really crowding the listener and not giving them space. So I think it is a way of respecting the listener to allow space in your song. And musically, as an art form, very often in any art form, the negative space or the space around the main figure in the painting, that's very important because it also sets off the words or what the focus is. So I think the space around it is very important. Plus, usually, I mean, we get lost in words. People do very often. And a song can keep you honest because the fewer words you can say it in and really get to the heart of the matter. I think that's always a good challenge and exercise for us. They can come from an image or something you notice that's beautiful to you. They can come from a story about someone that you know. They can come from your own story. And this song was based on some letters that my great uncles wrote home who were in the Civil War. My family line comes from a little town a whole lot like this called Union Springs, Alabama. And 5 of my great uncles went to war one at a time when they were teenagers. They went to the Civil War and they wrote letters home to their sister, and each letter started, "Dear Sister." And my cousin found these letters in a box in our great-great-grandfather's attic, and he published them in a book called Dear Sister. And the letters touched me because these young men, their bravery, their courage, their faith. And one of the letters really impacted me from my great-uncle James. And so that's where this song came from. The song is all true. It also includes the Battle of Stones River, where both the North and South began singing Home Sweet Home together on New Year's Eve in 1864.
This could be my last letter. I may never see the cotton fields of home again. And I miss you, dear sister. Tonight I never felt so all alone. And the fog was so thick that the Stones River stars could scarcely invade the dread and the dark. And all that I could see when I closed my eyes to dream was home, sweet home. In the camps of Round Forest, the midnight coals were glowing through the haze. The Union boys sang Hail Columbia, and then we sang Look Away, Look Away. And then a hush in the rain, there rose a sweet refrain in the dark before dawn. And instead of battle songs, the enemy and we all sang a melody of home, sweet home. This is my last letter, and I never see the cotton fields of home again. If I fall here at Stones River, I know that God will bear away my soul to be with Him. And I'll wait for you there, where all is bright and fair, where the light of His face outshines the blue and gray. We're all of humankind. Yes, every man will find his home, sweet home.
Sometimes the songs that are commercial and that do well on commercial radio are one kind of song, and the song that maybe isn't as commercial and hasn't earned as much royalties is recorded in a genre like bluegrass or Americana. Perhaps that isn't bringing home the bacon or as much bacon, but sometimes those songs I think are perhaps more unique and creative and maybe have the ability to touch someone even in a more powerful way, or certainly there's always that possibility. I don't think it has to be a hit to really be a great song and touch someone in an important way, make a difference in the world.
The more you know about songwriting, the longer you do it, does it make it easier?
No, because I hold myself to a pretty high standard. So when I think what I called acceptable to myself 40 years ago is different from what I felt was acceptable 30 years ago and what I feel is acceptable now. I throw out more songs now than I did then. And I work longer to do the fine-tooth editing. And I'm my own hardest critic. So once you know something, you have to be honest to what you know and really do your best to make that song all that it can be. And I think that gets, in a way, harder and harder, easier and easier, and that you know more and you have more skills, or you know what your skills are probably. But holding yourself to that standard is important, so I'm not sure it gets easier.
Do you have a gem that we haven't heard yet?
I think so. I have a couple of songs that I'm about to do on my 12th album, and I'm very excited about them, and they're different, they're unique. Some of them have a little bit of a mythical element, which is important to me from the spiritual angle. Some of the bigger themes in the life journey. I've been through some pretty big challenges since my last album. My home was hit by a tornado and destroyed in 2011, the day after my last album came out. There are always profound lessons to be learned when you're faced with something like a natural disaster. And I hope those things have come into my songs in deeper ways, so that may give me something with a little bit of unique angle, or help me grow in ways that I hope will come into my songs on this record and be fresh and be on the edge. I'm taking a lot of risks musically, so the short answer is I hope so and I think so.